Hello students, welcome to Studi.Live. Today let us talk about one interesting topic, that is double fertilization. First question, have you ever learned this topic before? Obviously yes, in your previous standard, that is in 10th. But the only thing is you wouldn't have learned the term double fertilization. You have learned the concept while studying pollination or while studying the reproduction in flowers. Okay, so now let us understand what is this double fertilization and why is this topic important. Now, you all know that in flowering plants, first pre-fertilization occurs where the gametes are formed. In that only, we transfer the gametes through pollination. Once that is done, now double fertilization needs to start. Double fertilization. What is fertilization? It is the fusion of two gametes. Now, why do we call this as double fertilization? That is what we are going to learn now. Okay, let's see what happens. Now, in general, what is the idea? You have the female part, you have the male part. So, let us have just a rough diagram now. You have already seen the fair diagrams. So, I have my pistil here. Okay, this is my ovary here, right? And I have suppose my anther here. Okay, this is my female part, this is my male part. Now from the male part, what's going to happen? The pollen grains are going to get transferred. So the pollen grains are going to get transferred here, right? I'm just showing you, not all the pollen grains are going to fall there, but this is how the pollen grains are going to get transferred, and they are going to reach what? They are going to reach the stigma part of your pistil, right? So this is stigma, style, ovary. So stigma is the receiving end for any plant, any flower, right? So what happens now? So again, I'm having my stigma now. Okay. Now here, let us have our ovaries as well. Now what's going to happen? Now my female gametophyte or my female gametes are where? Are waiting here. My female gametes are waiting here, right? For what? For the male gametes. Now, where are the male gametes? The stigma has already received the male gamete in the form of pollen grains. So, suppose my pollen grains reside here. Now, the question is what's going to happen after this? How does the pollen grain give the male gametes or transfer the male gametes to the ovary? Because once the male gametes they reach the ovary, then and then only the fusion can occur, right? So what happens is this pollen grain develops an elongated tube, and through which they transfer the male gametes. So obviously they are transferring how many male gametes? They are transferring two male gametes. They are transferring two male gametes to the ovary. So what happens with these gametes when it reaches inside the ovary? That is what we are going to learn, right? So let us learn what happens. So for that, again, you need this embryo sac here. You know about the embryo sac already. You know the diagram, how it looks, right, kids? So let us have the diagram again. So we have this cell, right? Once you draw this, you know the antipodals. So here are the antipodals, right? Then you have the other cells in this. Okay. Now here inside, obviously you have to draw the nucleuses. Then we have missed drawing the central cell and the synergy and the egg. Okay. Now we have their nucleuses here. The central has two nucleus. They are known as the polar nuclei. Here you have the egg cell. These are your synergids. right? Now, if you want to label them, you can label them, but what things are important, we are going to label only those. I'm going to label the polar nuclei. Polar nuclei. And I'm going to label the egg cell. Why are we labeling only these parts? Is because these two parts or these two nucleus are the reason for the fusion of male gametes. What happens is I have two male gametes, I can give one to one part and the other to other part. Now as I said, one male gamete is going to reach the egg. So I am taking one male gamete and I am transferring it to the egg. So one male gamete fuses with egg to form zygote. One male gamete fuses with egg to form the zygote, right? This process is also called as syngamy. This process is also called as syngamy or generative fertilization. Generative fertilization. Now, what happens with the other gamete? Okay, one male gamete is fused with the egg and the zygote is formed. Now, the other male gamete, what it does it goes to the polar nuclei. And now this fuses with the polar nuclei. Now, just imagine there are two nucleus already. One more nucleus is coming in. That means I have three nucleus. So this process here is called as triple fusion since it forms triploid primary endosperm nucleus. It forms the triploid primary endosperm nucleus. Primary endosperm nucleus is also labeled as PEN. Why we say it is triploid? Because you can clearly see there are three nucleuses inside, right? Now, since there is a fusion of two nucleus per one nucleus, we call this as the triple fusion. We call this as triple fusion. Now, this triple fusion is also called as vegetative fertilization. This is also known as vegetative fertilization. Now, kids, clearly can you see there are two fusion of two gametes producing two different things, one zygote and one primary endosperm nucleus. The primary endosperm nucleus is the reason of the production of endosperm. So indirectly I can say there are two fusion of gametes and the two fusion of gametes differently form different things. One forms the zygote that is fusing with the embryo, other forms the primary endosperm nucleus fusing with the polar nuclei. So there are two male gametes, they fuse with the polar nuclei as well as the egg, forming the zygote as well as the what? Primary endosperm nucleus. Two gametes fuse with two gametes to get two things. Everything is two. So clearly I can say there is double sexual fusion. There is what? Double sexual fusion. And since there is double sexual fusion, we call this as double fertilization. So what we say? There is double sexual fusion. Since there is double sexual fusion, that is the reason we call it as what? Double fertilization. This is the reason we call it as double fertilization. Now kids, there's one huge confusion. I want to clear that. That is the spelling of fertilization. The reason I'm going to talk about the spelling of fertilization here is because I'm using that word fertilization again and again. In our previous videos, in the previous chapters, in some videos you may have seen, we have used the spelling Fertilization. So we have used Fertilization. And now we are using Fertilisation. Fertilization and fertilization. Fertilization and fertilization. What is the difference? A very huge difference. Z and S. That is the only difference. If we talk about their meanings, it is exactly same. It is exactly same. Fertilization stands for the same thing. You know there are different accents, UK and other accents, right? Now in these accents, they spell it differently, and that is the reason we have two different spellings. If you Google it around, you will have ZATION. And if you see in your NCRT, you have SATION. So if you all have a question, which spelling do we use? See, if you use both, you are right. But it's always preferable to follow your text, right? So NCRT uses which spelling? Okay, kids. So fertilization is your spelling for fertilization, that is SATION. So this was all about double fertilization. Why do we call this as double fertilization? Because there are formation of two things. One is the zygote and one is the primary endosperm nucleus, which is the region of formation of the endosperm. Now how does the zygote form? The one male gamete fuses with what? Fuses with the egg. The other male gamete fuses with the polar nuclei. When it fuses with the polar nuclei, PN. When it fuses with the egg, zygote. So I hope you all understood double fertilization pretty well. Now once this zygote is formed and the primary endosperm nucleus is formed, how the endosperm is going to get formed, how the fruits, the seeds and everything is going to come out. That is what you will learn in post-fertilization. And to understand post-fertilization, what you will do, stay tuned to Study Live. Thank you.